Okay, well tonight we're bringing you another cooking video after we've done a few tech ones. We are officially on our way back down south towards Florida for the winter. And I say we're officially back in the south. We're in the Mississippi Delta, to be specific. We're back in the land of humidity and fire ants and having to wear jackets inside because the AC is so cold, which is something we haven't had to deal with for a while. But anyway, I'm not complaining. Anyway, tonight we're gonna try to summon fall by making some soup. And so this is actually one of our favorite soup recipes. It's butternut squash soup. It's something that Billy's been making for a long time, but he has asked me to make it tonight. But it's really nice because it's actually really creamy without having any dairy in it. And it uses chicken stock, which you can easily sub out for vegetable stock to make it vegetarian. So we're gonna do that with a arugula salad with a shallot vinaigrette. These are both Tyler Florence recipes from Food Network that they've been in our go-to for, I don't know, probably like over a decade now. So let's get to it. So this recipe is great because butternut squash is in season right now. So the first thing that we want to do is go ahead and get this cut, and then we're going to roast it. I've got the convection oven preheating at 400 right now. These are really hard, and we basically want to cut this lengthwise open, but it's usually pretty hard to get the full run of your blade through this with how big it is. So I'm actually going to cut it in half first and then lengthwise. Hopefully we don't film me cutting my finger off. That was successful. And we'll go down like this. All right, well, maybe that's not gonna work. Let's cut that off. All right. So what I'm gonna do next is scoop just the seeds out of it, and we're gonna stick it with a fork the same way you do like a baked potato when you're trying to cook it, just to help the heat get in and some of the moisture released. Grab a bowl. All right, I did my tray. You can see I've got it in the lowest position just because these things are a little bit taller. That way we just keep as much of the height of the meal as possible, and that is gonna fit there pretty well. So I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands, pop in the oven, and then we're gonna let it go for probably like 45 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer. The softer it is, the easier it'll be for us to scoop it all out into the pot. So, all right, so the only other ingredient that we actually need to prep is an onion. So we're just gonna do one onion sliced thin, and then I'm just gonna set it aside until we're actually ready to start doing everything in the pot. So just checked on the butternut squash and it is nice and soft. So I'm just gonna let that sit in the oven, and we're gonna go ahead and get everything else ready for the soup. So super easy. We're gonna start with half a cup of olive oil that I'm gonna go ahead and put in my pot, and then I'm gonna turn it up to probably like 6 or 7. I actually want this to be kind of hot because what we're gonna do is we're gonna add just a nice big bunch of sage. What it's gonna do is it's gonna impart a lot of that sage flavor actually into the oil that's gonna be in the soup, but then we're gonna have some nice crispy sage that we can use as a topping. So now that we got the sage pulled out and our oil is nice and scented with the sage, we're gonna go ahead and put our onions in so that they can start to saute. Okay, so the onions are now nice and softened and sauteed. The next step is just to scoop out the butternut squash, put it in the pot. We basically we don't want the skin. So I'm just gonna, this is still kind of hot. So just gonna hold it with this and then just scoop it out and add it. So we've got all the squash added to the pot. The next thing is we're gonna do our stock. So it's 3.5 cups. We're doing chicken stock, but you could easily swap this out for just a vegetable stock. So add this. All right, last half cup. This still leaves us just a little bit left in case we need some more to help thin it out. The other key ingredient when it comes to seasoning this is nutmeg. I feel like nutmeg is just one of those things that's in all of the different fall recipes. You can get nutmeg that's been already ground up, but if you can find whole nutmeg, I highly suggest using it because it just has so much of a fresher flavor. This just calls for a dash of it, so I'm just gonna grate a pinch. So I'm going to grate a pinch of it into the soup. Now we're ready to blend it. This is one of those recipes that the immersion blender comes in real handy for. You could always move this over to a separate blender if you needed to, or even a food processor, but obviously you have to do it in batches. This is really nice because we can just do it right in the pot. I do always turn the heat off when we're doing this just because there's no need for it and it'll hopefully prevent some splashing, but just go slow. So that blends up really easy, really quickly. Let's just look at the consistency of it. So it's, you know, it's a nice thicker soup. I'm not going to add any more chicken stock to it, but let's say you had a larger butternut squash and you thought it was just still a little too thick, you could always add just a little bit more. So I'm going to turn the heat back on. We're going to let this kind of simmer for a little bit while we make the dressing, and then we'll come back and we'll season it with some salt and pepper. So while the soup is simmering, we're gonna go ahead and get our salad dressing started. So again, we're making an arugula salad with a really simple vinaigrette. Arugula is a little bit of a peppery lettuce, which I love. This particular dressing is a little bit on the sweeter side. It's got a little bit of sugar and some honey, but that really helps balance out that peppery flavor. So super easy to make and it tastes really good. So we'll go ahead and get started. What I will recommend is that this is a really easy recipe to make, but you just got to do them in a certain order. That way you only have to use 1 spoon and you don't have to clean it. So we're going to start with 1 teaspoon of sugar, 2 teaspoons of red wine vinegar, 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, the vinegar actually helps that come out pretty easily. And then same thing with the honey, 1 teaspoon. All right, and I'll let that just sit there and finish draining in. Then we're gonna do 1/4 cup of olive oil. And then the last thing that's gonna go in is actually a shallot. So I'm just gonna finely dice this real quick and then we'll get it added. It's done. I'm not immune to this. I feel like Billy is.
It doesn't bother me as bad as it
Oh
does
my
you.
God. Oh
Usually-
God.
Usually we'd have a fan going, but
All right, I'm just making sure I got. Oh God.
sometimes she even gets it in the jar.
I can't see anything right now.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. All right. Oh my God. That was, oh my God, that was pungent.
Put the lid on.
Yes, the lid's on. Okay. Oh my God. All right, we are ready to fully plate. We may not have summoned fall, but we definitely summoned some rain, so sorry if you hear that. But anyway, salad is ready to go. I'm just gonna go ahead and ladle some of this into our bowls. All right, I'll show you how we plate it. So maybe just a little bit more nutmeg on the top, not a ton. We'll do a little bit of our crispy sage. It's just a garnish here. And then I like to do just a little drizzle of olive oil just around it, just for that kind of nice separation. All right, and that is our butternut squash soup. So for taste test, I'm gonna start with the salad just because that soup still looks pretty hot, but this is my favorite salad dressing. I love, love, love arugula, and the flavor with the shallots and then that little bit of the honey and the sugar it just complements the flavor so well. Ah, that's one of my favorites. For the soup. So good. I think what's so nice about this recipe is it tastes very fresh, but it also just tastes very, I don't want to say creamy, but it feels like it should have cream in it, but it doesn't. It's so simple. But you get a little bit of that sage flavor throughout, and then just that little bit of nutmeg kind of spices it up a little bit. It's so good. I hope you try it and I hope you enjoy it. And if you like content like this, cooking in your Airstream or your RV, please subscribe. It definitely helps us out.